mug out of a cylinder, okay? So you've probably noticed there's a bunch of cylinders over there on the shelf. Here's one that I'm using for my mug. We're still going to be working with rolling out slabs, and we're going to use this for our mold. So what I'm going to do first of all is pick out my cylinder. You'll notice I've taped some paper onto it to facilitate sliding the clay off of it. One thing you want to do is make sure you tape the paper to itself. Don't tape it to the cylinder because you might need to slide the paper off. So you don't want it stuck to the cylinder, you just want it taped around it. Okay, so that's the very first thing I'm going to do. Second thing I'm going to do is decide how long of a slab I need to go on the cylinder. The easy way to do this is use a piece of string, okay? Take your string, wrap it around the cylinder. Okay, it goes that far around. It needs to be at least that long, but I'm going to leave a little bit to overlap. So I'm actually going to make it probably about an inch longer than that. Then you're going to use a piece of paper, make a template. Okay, so this is where it comes to, and I'm going to have about an inch on the end. And then I'm going to make this about 4 inches high. I think that's how tall this is. Let's see. We don't want to make these giant, like too tall. So this one's about 4 inches tall. We're going to say 3 inches tall is about the minimum, and that's about right here. So that's, you know, about a regular size mug. And as you can see, I've made some others earlier in the day. I started, so you can kind of see what a semi-finished example looks like. So I'm going to set that aside. Okay, so I've got my template. I went ahead and figured out how big that needed to be ahead of time using the string, wrapped that around the cylinder. Got the cylinder prepared. I've got some paper taped on it. So now I'm going to make a slab. Okay, now one thing you'll remember before when we made slabs was we wanted to make them kind of square or circular, so we would pick up the clay and turn it around. This time we're making a long, narrow slab, so you may not have to do that depending on how much clay you have. So I'm going to go ahead and start off. And I'm going to start off at 3/4 of an inch and work my way down to 1/4 of an inch. Remember, you don't want to force too much through at a time on this because we don't want to break the slab early. So I'm just going to go kind of gradual. And again, I'm looking for kind of a long, thin shape for this. I'm just checking it to see if it looks like it. I want to make sure it's not going to stick to the canvas because it's a little bit wet. Again, you want to go about 1/4 of an inch thick. If you go any thinner than that, it's just going to be probably way too fragile. So 1/4 inch is a good measurement. Okay, so now that I've got the slab rolled out, I can take my template and make sure that it fits. And it will fit, so that's good. If you make it a little bit bigger, you can use the excess clay to make the bottom of your mug and your handle. Just going to move this over some. And I'll go to this side so you guys can see better. Okay, so I'm going to take my template, set it down. Goodness. You never know what you'll find out here. And then I'm going to cut it out with a needle tool or another cutting utensil. If you'd like to, so your paper doesn't move around, or if you want to have a nice straight edge, you can just use the ruler over the top of that. Okay, so I've got that cut out. I'm just going to set my other clay aside. Okay, now I'm going to take my mold and just carefully roll this slab around it. Try not to move it around too much and warp the shape. Just go kind of slowly. And you'll notice that there is an overlap here. Okay, see how it overlaps? Okay, next thing I'm going to do is just trim that a little bit. And now to get rid of the seam, what I'm going to do is take a rib, excuse me, just one of these with a flat edge, and just kind of blend the clay together along that seam. And when it comes off, then you'll be able to blend the inside as well. And by cutting the template out and figuring out the measurements ahead of time, this is making it way easier to make a nice, neat mug. If you just try to wrap a slab around it and then trim it, it doesn't work out quite as nice. You're going to end up with an uneven, sloppy mess. So I would definitely recommend doing the template. It takes a couple more minutes, but it's worth it in the long run. Okay, so once you get it on there, kind of blend that seam with a rib, and then I'm going to take a sponge. I wish this was a little bit wetter. Maybe a little slip, kind of blend over it, smooth it out, smooth it out. Okay. So anybody want to guess what the next step is?
A handle.
Okay, well here's the thing. What I would suggest doing next, if you do make a handle, I would let it sit aside for a few minutes to dry or blow dry it a little bit to get leather hard. As you'll notice, I have a couple others sitting here. Notice how they're all already leather hard, they're holding the shape. So whenever I go to score and slip this on, it should stay in place pretty easily and it won't fall out of shape. You won't have to prop it up with a lot of different things. The other thing too is we want to go ahead and take this off the mold, but if we take it off the mold while the clay is still soft, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to warp, okay? See, I can slide this out, but as you'll notice, it's not going to hold its shape real good. Okay, so at this point, you want to blow dry it first. Before you take it off, get it to the leather hard stage. If you don't have time, you can put it in a bag overnight so it won't dry all the way. If it dries all the way while it's on this mold, it's going to crack, okay? So don't leave it on the mold uncovered to dry all the way. All right, I'm going to set this aside. I've got another one that I started making earlier today. You can see I've already attached the bottom. Once it's leather hard, you can take it off and attach the bottom. And what I did is I just sort of used excess clay, put it on here, cut around it to make the bottom. Maybe leave a little extra to blend up on the sides. But you can basically cut it to size here. Okay, so that would be a bottom for the mug. Okay, here's one that I made earlier today. It is pretty leather hard. I can go ahead and take the paper out. You'll notice the seam is still on the inside, so what you can do then, in that case, is take a wooden tool and just sort of blend that out, because it's hard to get your finger down in there. You can also take a sponge and put it on the end of a long stick or a paintbrush handle with a ruler and kind of work that down in there too to smooth it out. Okay. So now I'm going to take this leather hard cylinder that I've got here and the base that I cut earlier that's also leather hard, and I'm going to take a serrated rib, or you can use another tool if you want, and I'm just going to score the bottom of that. And I'm going to go ahead and score this. Add some slip to it. And then I'm going to attach those together. And I've got a little bit of overlap. I can go back and trim it afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to trim that up a little bit. And then I can just sort of blend it together. You may want to get a wooden tool to kind of make sure those are really pressed together good. Okay. if it's a little lopsided, you can kind of paddle it back in place. You can use a wooden spoon or a ruler. Okay, so it's starting to take shape. Just gonna thin out this rim and shape it a little bit. Okay, so now that I've got that done, I'm going to attach the handle. And remember, if you make your handle ahead of time and blow dry it or let it sit out until it's leather hard, it won't lose its shape. It'll be much easier to maintain that shape. So I'm just going to score and slip it on. Let's see. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball where I want it. And make a mark. Okay, put some slip on it. I'm gonna press that in place.
Good job, Daniel.
Okay. Now while it's drying, well, first of all, I want to go and kind of smooth any excess slip off of it. But while this is drying, I can put a little paper up under the handle to kind of prop it up, make sure that it stays in place. And then once it's dry, that can be removed. Also, I might want to take this, maybe just press those edges down to make sure it's on there real good. And I want to go around and kind of smooth these edges down, make it look nice. Alright, so there you go. There's a basic cylinder mug. Anybody have any questions?
Can I have that one? Can I use that as a grill?
No.
Sure.
Alright. You can.
Can
Do you have
I
to
use
say
one
the
of those?
camera?
No, I'm done.
I
Thanks.
didn't drop